Hello, and thank you for calling the Higher Self Hotline, your direct line to the divine. You've been led here by your inner knowing, and you've arrived right on cue. I'm your host, Zoey Greco, and together we'll make the ethereal earthly, helping you consciously embody your spiritual knowing and most authentic self. Please listen carefully to the following options. To discover how to fulfill your soul's purpose, press 1. To unlock infinite abundance in life, love, and career, press 2. To heal your mind, body, and spirit, press 3. To speak with your personal spirit guides, press 0. Please hold while we connect you to your highest timeline. Hello, Divine Darlings, and welcome back to the Higher Self Hotline podcast. I'm your host, Zoey Greco. Thank you so much for joining me today. And today, you are in for such a treat. We just met, and I can say with my full whole heart that I always know when I'm in the right place by the way that someone makes me feel. And this is certainly a divine appointment. Today, I am more than honored and more than excited to introduce you to none other than Hector Marcel. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about Hector before we officially let him say hello. Hector is a wellness leader and a transformational change consultant based in New York City with over 30 years of study and practice in the Gelugpa lineage of Tibetan Buddhism. He is known for translating ancient Eastern wisdom into powerful tools for modern leadership and daily life. A seasoned organizational change professional, Hector has led cultural transformation initiatives across the public and private sectors in Australia, the US, and internationally, specializing in people, performance, and service. He's the president of 3 Jewels, New York's leading modern enlightenment studio, where meditation, yoga, and Eastern philosophy are taught as living practices for contemporary urban life. Revered for his warmth, his humor, and insight, which I can attest are all very present today, Hector blends the rigor of traditional oral lineage with the pragmatism of modern business, helping individuals and communities unlock confidence, clarity, and connection. Hector, every word of this I can feel is so true. Welcome to the show, and thank you for being here.
Thank you. What a pleasure. Thank you for that intro. And it really is lovely to meet you. I felt the same meeting you. So I think we're up for a good conversation, and welcome everyone.
I have a feeling. For anyone who's interested that's listening to us right now, Hector came into my sphere of influence and my area of knowledge through George Poulos, who you guys have met on the show. And as you know, is my personal mentor and my friend. And so to meet the person from whom George has been absorbing his wisdom is a really, really, really special thing. One of my very best friends, also Aisha Yee, who is a vulnerability coach and guide and meditation teacher, is also a student of Hector's. And so some of my favorite people in the world receive your brilliance. But I'm curious, before you were changing lives, what was your life like? What got you here, Hector?
What got me here? Okay, long, short answer, right? Hi, everyone, by the way.
Thank you.
Thanks for letting me say hello to the people. What got me here? My startup line to like an icebreaker when I meet crowds of people I don't know, I tell them that I was born when I was very young. No, and just because I'm old and I can do dad jokes, so I can get away with it. So I was born in Argentina, so hence Hector.
Wow.
Right? Yeah. And this accent. Hector. Yeah, actually my name, I know it's Hector Marcel usually. That's actually my middle name and my first name, Marcelo Hector. My real name is Hector Marcelo Jerónimo Ochoa Peralta de Figurilli de Malacari el Segundo, so... I added the
I'm really grateful you didn't tell me this. I was going to say, thanks for not making me say that, because I don't think I could have, but I would have loved to.
So Argentinian, moved to Australia when I was 10 and then had to sort of transform my identity, culture uproot, no English, no idea what we were doing there. I thought I'd go see my friends. So already that's telling of what I was going to become. But, you never know looking forward what you're going to become or what brought you, where you're heading. You never, ever know. You only can make sense of this magic looking back, So what felt like really tumultuous transformation for my parents and my family and learning another language and being bullied and being the outcast and the whole thing actually became my power, my superpower, because I developed sort of defense mechanisms in Australia against sort of being prejudiced or whatever humans do to each other when they don't understand each other. And I was trying, I grew very sort of strong antennae to tune into the abuse before it came, or I had to understand beyond language. I didn't know that would give me a 20-year career in helping teams, managers, executives in organizations figure out the subtlety of culture within themselves, within the organization, things that we're blind to with each other. And so I had no idea that's what was going to happen. And somewhere along the way, always interested in something bigger. Why? Somewhere along the way, I bumped into a Tibetan Buddhist teacher in the Geluk tradition, after I had already sort of renounced any organized systems. Like, religion's evil, everyone's an idiot, because I'm Argentinian, so everyone's an idiot. And then that's, that's my culture, apparently,
Sure.
but I didn't know. And this monk really shook me. It shook every idea I had about reality. And so I had to, despite myself, keep hanging around them to investigate and get answers. And what I didn't know about the Geluk group of Buddhists, the Tibetan Buddhists that are Geluk, is that they don't just pray, meditate, and do whatever we think Buddhists do. They're not calm at all. They analyze reality like a philosopher. They'll study all the great books on philosophy. Why is reality, internal and external, the way it is? And then, so they study that with teachers and texts and all that all day, every day, 6 days a week in a monastery. And then in the afternoons, for about 4 to 6 hours every evening, 6 evenings a week, they debate. They try and prove what they learned as wrong. Not to win the debate, but to lose the debate. Because if I lose the debate, I will learn something. And they're not trying to lose, like they go in to try and win it. So I didn't know. I'm like this fiery 20-something-year-old, think I know everything. I sorted it all out. I bump into reality. In your 20s, you suffer. Reality is stronger than I think after teenagehood. You think you've sorted it out. Wait till you're mid to late 20s. And then I just couldn't get through the logic. So I would be asking smart-ass questions, or just because you're a monk doesn't mean that I have to believe you, or just because you say karma doesn't mean it's true. And I didn't know that guy had debated that for 20 years. So he knew every answer to every dumb question, and mine were just dumb questions. That got me so fascinated. The philosophy got me so fascinated that I was in this love-hate relationship with it for 2 years. As I'm sucking it up, I'm deconstructing the parts of me that were too tight. Yeah. And so then you have to see who you are. It's really confronting. So I want that for other people now. And the easy target is all the people that hate their jobs and are jealous and competitive. Because I did that too, so that's an easy target. So I became a closeted Buddhist, studying, debating, teaching philosophy and meditating, like really getting to contemplate. And then my my laboratory was the workplace, and I'd go and help people change. And I know that the only way things change and stay changed is if we change. Like, you can't just do and remain the same old person. And that takes some kind of voodoo magic that is hard to explain to corporates. And so that's why it took me 20 years, but I'm good at it.
I have to say, something that I think is so... It's funny, I'm laughing, but part of me wants to cry, because the gift of humor in spiritual conversation is so profound. And the fact that we're giggling, we're strangers who have sat down and we're already, as the kids say, kikiing. We're giggling and I'm getting so much joy. Like, my heart feels so joyful and so open in the presence of your energy. And I feel like this is kind of the gift that I think I try to give in my work, the gift that you give in your work is sort of this embodied transformation, is being able to I feel the laughter, I feel the joy in my heart. I feel the laughter and I feel the joy in my spirit. I feel literally enlightened by the humor and the levity that is offered
Marry
as
me,
we're,
marry me. I'm
yeah.
gay, but we can't. But marry me
I'm
anyway.
already married, but I've been looking for a gay husband. So honestly,
I'm
I
looking
think
for
this might
a.
be exactly the arrangement.
Is it a beard? Is that what it's called when you marry someone that you're not?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. I've got one,
Yes.
but I need another beard. Yeah.
I would gladly be your
I
beard.
feel so seen by what you just said because out of all the method, all the things that I know, and I know some stuff, and I can recite stuff, and I can memorize stuff, and I have returned to stuff and deepened the stuff. The core of the stuff is joy. Yeah. So we have this, and so laughter, uh, even self-gaslighting for me brings me joy. Like that's the thing that makes
Yes.
me giggle. I'm like, you took yourself
Yes.
so seriously, Hector. Like, you see what I mean? And that laughter, what it does is it unlocks the tightness that we have around trying to receive or experience or become. It's the fastest route I know to an open heart.
You know, in all the time that I've been teaching people how to activate their intuition, I always say that intuition is the compass, but joy is the needle. Joy points us in the direction that we need to move. Like, where do you actually feel joyfulness? Where do you actually feel levity? And it's often that we're taught that those things are frivolous, that
Yeah.
whatever brings us joy or laughter is somehow unimportant. The way that we're taught to deprioritize art and creativity. The society that we live in is very sick with seriousness. We've got a bad case of the serious, and we're all taking ourselves too seriously. We're all taking each
Yes,
other
we
too
are.
seriously. And to the point that life has become satire. It's like the
Yeah.
circle has gone all the way around. We took it so seriously that now we're living in the absurd. So I'm curious, when
Yeah.
you support people in this embodied process of transformation, when you're teaching people this core tenet of joy and embodying that joyfulness, how do you help people begin to unravel that tightness? Like for someone that might not even know how uptight they are, thinking of some of my own clients, shout out to them. They know who I'm talking about. I'm curious, like, how do you begin that process of just poking at where the tension lives?
Yeah, poking is it, right? So there are degrees. I'm going to now take laughter very seriously. There are degrees of
Yes.
laughter. There are degrees, and those degrees depend on the relationship that you have with someone. So I couldn't do the same technique to a person that I've just started working with. I couldn't do the same of that as someone that I've been working 15 years for, right? So for over 15 years, I have tried throwing at them the giggles or the ridiculous or the thing that would open up and give you a bigger vision. And in those 15 years, I have seen that still for you, in some cases, that's not funny, right? And so there's a grip there, but I've known what is funny for you over time, right? So at the beginning, like I started with that silly, dumb line. I was born when I was very young, like I I look at the room when I say that, and I'm not doing it consciously anymore. It's like a habit now. And I see who's connected to the very silly, stupid joke. Or I will say my full name, Hector Marcel, okay, no, no much, and then I will see who's confused and who's like rolling their eyes, which means they're in, but they're tight.
Yes.
And so
They've bought in subtly.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So there is a calibration that happens. And like you and I did, Zoe, like we instantly threw the signals and we caught the signal. And I can't do that with everybody. So we come into this life with a propensity for, and then I think you made a comment which was really good. We are living in a time where people take themselves and the world so seriously that they don't helicopter out and see the big, big, big picture. We are living in ridiculousness, and it's a ridiculous experience of being, and we should take it so seriously that we laugh at it, right? Because laughing is the only thing that will disarm it. So I am seriously joyful because
Mm,
you know what I mean? Like it is the only antidote to the
yeah.
calcification of fear, which is seriousness. So
Oh,
we are driven by fear. Our brains are wired for fear. We're paying attention to fear. We're addicted to fear. And responding to fear creates more fear. The only antidote is joy. But there are, like, I had a client today and she was going through something extremely personal and extremely difficult. Yeah, extremely difficult. And she's bound by it. But her and I have a kind of silliness like you do. So it is the most inappropriate thing to say appeared in my mind in relation to that terrible thing she's talking about. You know, and
Yes.
I've worked with her enough to know a little bit of the edge, but it was a little bit of a leap to say the ridiculous thing, you know. But she was getting so serious and so caught up and teary about it that I had to throw her something. And so I threw the really terrible thing you shouldn't say. And then she paused, and I felt like time slows down, your throat shrinks, you're like, oh, did I screw it up? And then she just couldn't stop laughing, and the tears came through with joy, and it changed, you know. And I'm like, I didn't know it was going to be okay. She's like, no, you get me. So I have, you know, a couple of people in my life that I feel that way towards, and I am forever calibrating. But now, you know, I'm an old bastard, so I've seen also trends of people and trends of
Archetypes. Yes.
yeah, over years, this is out of bounds. You can't joke about this, and then you can joke about this. And so I have seen the trends come and go. And so I also have to be compassionate enough to know that some things I can't joke about too publicly. But, you know, if you want to get, or your audience want to understand what we're talking about, is just look at the most inappropriate texts you send to your closest friends. That's what we're talking
Yes.
about. Things you would not
Yes.
post that, you would not share that publicly. Some family members would be horrified if they saw your very private texts with your closest friends, right? And so I learned this from the Dalai Lama. He has a practice where he wakes up every morning and has this practice of equanimity. We're all in the same boat. The boat is sinking. We can giggle our way to glue it together. We can use wisdom to try and understand what's sinking it. We shouldn't divide. So everyone is my friend. I'm excited to meet whoever my friends are and in whichever form they appear. Sometimes there'll be grumpy friends on the subway. Sometimes there'll be shitty friends on the internet. But every single person I'm meeting today is a long lost friend. And I will at least have that attitude in my mind. And then we work appropriately, you know.
I'm really crying.
Yeah,
I
good.
really think
But
that's
it's
so
true.
beautiful.
It's supposed to move
Yeah.
us like that, you know, like,
Yeah.
because how come?
Oh.
Otherwise, we let fear run the show. Screw fear, you know?
No, please. We support the word fuck on the show.
Highly intercourse fear.
You know, what you're talking about is such a subtle art and something that I myself have had to learn. And being an actively intuitive person my entire life, I think has really supported me as a clairsentient person. I've always been able to read the vibe. It's like there is a line and you can sense it and you can feel it and you can know. And I think immediately, because I'm so attuned and you're so attuned, we just saw each other and went, oh, I'm safe here. This is a good place to be. Like, I can do this. And I want to say too that you intuitively read me when you saw me, and I want you to know that I communicate through my style. Obviously, I built myself a stage to sit on, right?
It's so good.
I communicate through my style, and recently, Hector. I'm sorry to say this to you. I don't mean to make you feel old when I say this. I'm a child of the '90s. I was born in '91, and so I think of the '90s as quite chic and nostalgic and cunty, like in the best way. Like it's very like, you know what I mean?
I
And
do. I
so
was there.
recently you were there, and you were probably the cuntiest of all. And when I think about like my style and how it skews very 60s and 50s, what I really resonate with is more like Fran Drescher in The Nanny, like the 90s does the 60s. And you locked in on this very subtle thing about it being actually quite 90s that no one else ever notices. And this might sound so trivial, but this is extreme attention to detail. This is actually something that sits in the back of my presentation. And you saw me and immediately read to the back of my presentation, to the more subtle, nuanced places in my presentation. And so what you're describing, I might almost call like the art of noticing. It's a
Mm.
very, very subtle practice. And what you're talking about as well is like something can be quite funny, even when it's painful.
Yeah,
And then there are things that are painful.
yeah,
And when it's painful, we hold it differently. And the compassion and the love are just as liberating and levitating as joy.
yeah,
So I'm curious if you can speak to like the development of that compassionate spirit.
yeah, yeah. Like, oh, so sweet, that question. My part of my joy or the silliness is born out of our minds dogmatizing compassion and kindness. I think I said it when we started talking about being too pious. Yeah. That locks you into an identity that will screw you up. It will screw you up. Yeah. You won't be perfect in that way. You will have to work with all your shadows, and they'll hide in the corners, and they'll manifest as kinks or whatever it's going to be for you. You see
Sure.
what? And so for me to have levity around the most serious things, albeit I may not broadcast it, yeah, I will have that irreverence in my mind, which to me, pardon the dichotomy, is the most reverent thing I can do in the face of
Mm.
living beings.
Uh,
Yeah. So to me,
yeah.
I'll give you a story. My best friend in my whole life, his name is Evan. He lives in Australia. He's not gay, despite what they say about him. That's my joke in all the stories. He's married and whatever. uh, even
You're
though,
like, honey, if he was, let me tell
yeah,
you what.
yeah, even though he appears that way. No, no. He calls me. My dad dies. It's the first person in my family close to me that dies. He calls me, and he does oh, heck, I'm so sorry, and it's beautiful. And I'm in the room with my dad and the corpse, right? But then there's this
Mm.
pause, and I'm like, because we love each other, we know each other so well, I know some shit's coming down the phone. And so the pause was not compassion and let me hold you. He was calculating the stupidest thing he could say.
How far can I go? Yeah.
And I knew it. And so I'm already smiling, feeling terrible because there's the corpse in the room, and like it's just me and my dad, and my best friend, and the world is perfect. The world is perfect. No one else could have gotten me the way he did, And then, of course, I had to say, I'm so sorry to my mom, her ex-husband, like I had to be compassionate, and I would present that way. Of course I would, my siblings, and of course, and that's the right thing to do. But the deepest thing, the most the most profound moment was his really terrible one-liner, which I won't repeat.
Oh,
Which got me to just to
oh.
break down, and then I felt like it did exactly what he needed to do, which is to embarrass me if the nurses heard me laughing, after pronouncing it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
And I keep that moment, I keep that moment and many like it with him and with long-term students and friends. Yeah. It feels like
Oh,
that. Yeah.
I'm really, for anyone that's not watching this on video, I am sobbing. When Hector said me and my dad and my best friend, I lost my actual shit. Oh my God. I'm a very sensitive person,
Yeah.
and that is
Zoe,
so
thank you.
beautiful. That is so
But
beautiful.
isn't that the highest? Isn't that like the highest, right? So, of course, I could have levels of compassion then. Of course, when I opened the door and went in the hallway, and then there were other me's with their dads, they didn't
Ugh.
have an Evan, So, of course, I'd share
Hector,
my. Oh,
stop.
sorry, sorry.
You're destroying me. Oh my God. Okay. Yep.
I'm
Okay.
sorry.
No, it's beautiful.
And for that, and so that's compassion. But I do have a resistance to become the dogmatic, nice human, That's
Mm,
too small for what we are. It's way too
yeah.
small to be the
Ugh.
pious goody goody two shoes. I think the kumbaya niceness, I think that's a bullshit. You know, it's a
Yes,
path, it's
yes.
part of it. And there are tender moments where I can be
Mm.
tender in a loving relationship or in a friendship. But if you can't make fun of it, it's not the full story.
This is so incredibly powerful. And, I think the thing that is so profound about being in your presence, which I have friends who have described this, and everyone was like really excited for us to connect. And I was
Oh,
like,
good.
how great can this guy be? Like, what? Like, he's just a man, at the end of the day, he's a man. And
With a
I
dead
have to say
dad.
that
Yeah.
with a dead dad and a best friend.
And a best friend.
And, to be able to actually be with you is so profound, even virtually, even from across the country, even from very far away, because what this really says is energy is experienced and felt. It's not solid. Like the tangibleness of your body and your presence and wherever you exist is not interrupting at all the connection that we're able to create and the connection that you carry with you. The other thing that really astounds me that I think is really worth highlighting, I almost want to put you under a microscope for listeners as a study in
It's going to be a
grounded
telescope,
spirituality.
but that's fine.
Yeah. As we zoom in on just your brilliance, I find that there's so much humanity in you. Like, I know that I'm sitting before someone who is very spiritually evolved. And also I feel like I can have a truly human experience with you. I was just having this conversation on someone else's show about how I think the most spiritual thing you can do is really be a human being.
Yes.
And so I'm curious for you as a spiritual teacher. And this is frankly quite a selfish question because your footsteps are ones I would like to follow. As a spiritual teacher, how do you balance your own humanity? And where does your humanity still poke its head that you think, oh, maybe I'd like to address that? Or the humanity appears that you think, oh, I'd like to preserve that?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't know how to relate to humans, so I don't know how to answer that.
You are levitating, so that doesn't surprise
all the
me.
way up here, I don't know what that looks like anymore.
Yeah.
No, it's an awesome question because I think we get caught up in identities. At some point, we have to get to the core of the philosophy that really hooked me and understood. And I don't care whether it's Buddhist or Sufi or whatever, but this idea that I cannot shake or cannot break is the foundation of that question, right? So we put on identities and we hold on to identities and we grasp onto identities without end. And the guru identity or the spiritual teacher identity, when you step into it, like I didn't ask for this, like I was just interested and then I tested it and then it worked. And then gradually someone says, can you teach us that? And I'm like, try this. And then I'm in full career of being a spiritual teacher. And then, my teacher asked me to take care of the center that they started in the 90s, in New York. And so then I was a formal spiritual teacher,
Mm-hmm.
And your question just talks to the actual possibility of transformation that exists for every person. When you try out a new identity, especially a lofty one that you cannot fit, like enlightenment is too big for a little human, you know? You know what I mean?
Everything you say makes me cry. Oh my God, yeah.
I should have worn makeup.
Yeah. Next time I'm talking to you, I won't wear makeup. That's so beautiful.
You know what I mean? So when you step into whatever identity, like if you're a doctor, right? And it means all these things. And consciously, it's one thing, but subconsciously is a billion other things. And so if you habituate a state of being, I am unlovable, and that's what it means to be me, or I am kind, and then you catch yourself doing something unkind. I'm a spiritual teacher. Like for me, the awesomest thing about being a spiritual teacher, which is, I learned how to meditate. And the only archetypes of meditation I had is monks and nuns in caves, right? And then I had sexual urges. I never signed up for celibacy. I'm not a monk or a nun. I didn't take those vows. Yeah. Took other vows. Be funny. No. And so you get sexual urges and you meet someone you love and you want to have a relationship. And it wasn't Evan. I know he wants it, but it was.
Yes. Evan, if you're listening, Hector's gone. That ship has sailed, honey.
Yeah.
Okay? Let it go, Evan.
Stop
Let it go,
trying,
Evan.
Evan. Oh my God, I'm gonna send him. So there's the rub, right? But I'm kind. How come I don't like that person? And then you either rationalize to keep the identity or you break through the limits of the identity and you try and see something deeper. Yeah. And whatever that range is, now we've entered into dangerous ground. Because what's the point of being something if you're going to step outside the limit? Right? What's
Yes.
the point of having
Yes.
an identity? And well, welcome to the philosophy of no self nature. No self nature is what Buddhists would say is our true essence. The essence of a sentient, whatever they are, human, animal, whatever, is you don't have an essence. You're not human from your own side. You're not a kind person from your own side. You're not an angry person from your. You are a forever changing thing, and any changing thing has causes and conditions. Like any changing thing in the universe, you, the mind, and you, the body, are forever changing. Those changing parts of you cannot be calcified into one easy summary. What should I call Zoey? Is Zoey the podcaster? Is Zoey the friend? Is Zoey the wife? Is Zoey the funny? Is Zoey the broken? Is Zoey the fixer? Well, they can't. You're either that or you're that. And so the Buddhists really got this when they realized when you go finding for whatever you identify as most, spiritual teacher, meditator, kind person, Zoey, right? Buddhists go and investigate that through meditation. You got to build the tool of meditation, like let logic and reason find the true part of Zoey that is the podcaster. Is it in your toes? Is it in your ear? Like they literally go through body parts and mental parts. They're like, here's a Zoey. They're made up of body and mind. Let's go through all the body parts and find the podcaster. Because if it's broadcasting, if it's broadcasting podcaster, we should be able to find the Zoey that is a podcaster. And of course, you understand
Wow.
you'll come up empty. That there's nothing in the body that signals podcaster. So let's go
Yeah.
find it in the mind, right? Oh, and then the Buddha said,
Mm.
just they're assholes. They're like, okay, they're fantastic debaters. Which mind, which part of Zoe's mind are we going to go looking at? 5-year-old Zoe? Was the podcaster there? No, empty. Wait, 10-year-old Zoe? Was the podcaster there in the 2000s, which I recently found out?
2001.
Yeah, 2001, which I recently found out was called the aughts. Is that right?
It's true, yeah. The early aughts.
Damn. Yeah, I'm learning something.
I love that.
And so you cannot find the podcaster there. You cannot find the podcaster there. And suddenly the Buddhists become Dr. Zeus, It's not there and there and, etc.
If it's not there, is it anywhere? Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly. So that's the concept of emptiness. What you thought existed in the Zoe, you cannot find in a Zoe. Therefore, Zoe is empty of being a podcaster, which pisses off the identity of Zoe the podcaster. But we'll get to that one in a second, right? Hector, the
Yeah.
spiritual teacher, is a charlatan. Like, partly my joke is to grow this beard so I look like a guru, so it pisses people off when I say bad things. They're like, that doesn't fit. I'm like, I know it doesn't.
It's not supposed to.
It's not
Yes.
supposed to. It's supposed to wake you up, bitches. Like it's supposed to go, look, you think this is guru? You think this is guru? You think this is meditator? You should see the dumpster fire that's my mind when I try and meditate. You should see. So what is meditation? Let's go find meditation in the posture. Let's go find meditate. Let's define meditation. Whatever you pick, the Buddhists have screwed it up for you. You will never, not once, ever find the essence of that thing you're looking for in the thing. It's empty. But you will 100% find it in the mental construct of the perceiver. There are people for whom the only podcaster I can listen to is Zoey. She's she's a true podcast. She's a real.
She's the one and true, the one and
Yeah,
only
yeah,
true podcaster.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And then the
At the Church of
spiritual.
Zoe, it is true.
Well, that's what I mean. Zoe is another
Yeah.
perceiver of that mind and
Yes.
that body. You don't own it. You think you
Yes.
own it. We say it's my mind, it's my body. If we say it's my
Mm-hmm.
mind, who's saying that? If you're
Mm-hmm.
saying the mind that's in Zoe is mine, then you're not Zoe.
Mm-hmm.
It's you.
Oh,
Isn't that annoying?
no, Hector, you know what's interesting is so this teaching arrived with George. George has delivered it to me. I have delivered it to my students. And as I'm hearing it from your mouth directly, I'm realizing how many filters it's gone through as it was delivered to me. And that's not to say that it wasn't also true and correct. I mean, my understanding of emptiness is empty, except that for my own perception of it. So it's beautiful to kind of hear it from the source. Like I'm
I'm not the
actually a very
source.
indirect. Exactly, right? Exactly. I was going to say I'm an indirect descendant of your lineage,
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah,
you're just an indirect descendant of someone else's, and
yeah.
it's a beautiful thing to watch it unfold. And I have two questions for you that are coming up and coming through, and I'm going to start with the first one, which is, you have this book that I'm extremely excited to talk about, Wisdom Decoded, and I want to understand, as a spiritual person, your relationship to ambition. Like, why did you write a book? Did you write a book because the teachings were pouring out of you and you were like, I'm so smart, I need to write this down? Was it that you got tired of telling all these people the same thing, so you said, hold on, let me centralize this information? Or was it that there's some part of you that's like, I want to be a New York Times bestseller? Like,
Yeah.
what brought you here? Like, what is your relationship to ambition or creation? What drives your creative force?
It's so cool, the question. I think in my 20s, I was way more ambitious than I am now. Yeah. Um, and interestingly enough, my identity said, you're not good enough to write a book. You're not good enough to describe your insights. Like, I envy you, Zoe. You're born in the 90s. You're just a child.
Sure.
You know,
I am but a babe, but alas.
no, but if you come to Three Jewels, like George's generation, right? If you come to Three Jewels, which is the place where I teach that's been around 30 years and so on, everyone's Gen Z or a little bit over. The 35-year-olds think they're ancient at Three Jewels,
I'm
right?
35. I think I'm old as fuck. Yeah.
But there's something about me in that age bracket that I was too small to believe that the downloads or the experiences I was having, which were real, warranted me being able to share them. And I thought it was a kind of wisdom to say you should test it out for a few decades before you tell people what you're so certain about reality. Because maybe you're a little
Yeah.
naive, you little Argentinian,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So I thought that was wisdom. And throughout the decades, I realized it was also hiding. It was like, you can't do that. Yeah. And so when I realized I'm hiding, I need to break that identity. Yeah. And so I've had to do that thanks to being the teacher at Three Jewels. I mean, I'm the teacher at Three Jewels in the last 15 years. And in those 15 years, I've put other people forward, like the book. Like, uh, other people should be the teachers. And I really believe that, by the way, because if you could hear a George teach and it turns into a Zoe, and like George, I've taught Aisha and Rachel and Sachi and John Chris and all these teachers, we are infected with this view in every yoga studio around the world that's studied at Three Jewels. Every teacher I've certified for the 10 years of meditation teacher training. And that's really my masterpiece, the one I'm most proud about. The realizations that I can't stop now in George's mind. He's obsessed with reality, and rightly so, because he's got that right mind, and so does Rachel, and So for me, the book was a kind of test for me to say, can you put yourself out there, because you're playing too small, Hector? And it was uncomfortable. Talk about human. It's still uncomfortable. But here's where it began. It began in 1996. When all the Buddhists, the Gelugpa school of Buddhism, are known for their lists. There's the lists of two truths. The lists of three jewels, three realities. The list of four truths. The list of five paths. The list of six perfections, and many more. And I couldn't keep it all together because each one of those line items in those lists were profound, hundreds of years of debate and insight. But they are in the Gelugpa thing, you're supposed to memorize them so you can argue with each other in the debate ground. So lists became a mnemonic device to say, you're contradicting yourself because the 6 of this say that and the 12 of this say this. So I kept a list since 1996 of every time I heard a new bloody list. And so this book began as the list of Buddhist lists, yeah, which a summary of which is at the back. A summary of the list of Buddhist lists are at the back. And then I grabbed the core main concepts, which if you walked into Three Jewels now, 15 years of people really studying and debating, and like they're studying the 20-year curriculum of a Masters of Philosophy in a Tibetan monastic. They're studying in an 8-year period at Three Jewels, right? Every Thursday, and then with debate and practice and meditations and so on. And so if you were to walk into Three Jewels, like I've seen in many corporate settings, Three Jewels has a language of its own little lexicon. And if you're a stranger, you'd be like weirded out. It's culty, it's weird. Why are you talking karma, emptiness? And so part of that was to break that. So if I could put down the top 100 terms that you would hear at Three Jewels and people are obsessed about, I'm hoping to sneak in more Gen Z, more modern interpretations of what are literal definitions in the Tibetan and Sanskrit system, but put into modern words. So, for example, the entry on karma is the definition of karma in Tibetan is the movement of the mind and what follows. That's the definition of karma. And so I'm not writing the movement of the mind. What the hell does that mean? So I've had to write a little paragraph that says that, but it's correct to the definition. And because of 30 years of study, I'm anally retentive about making sure I'm not missing a nuance. Yeah. But now you can talk about karma without having to be Tibetan about it. You can talk about it as a human being. And then can I tell you my most proud moment in the book?
Please. Oh my God. Are you kidding? Tell me anything.
The entries look like this, right? So there's the word that you'll hear. And then you've got Sanskrit, Tibetan, and lingo, which is my favorite thing. Then the definition and how to practice it. And then which of the lists it appears in. So the lingo is mental afflictions is an entry, mental afflictions, right? So the Sanskrit is klesha, and nyomo in Tibetan. But the lingo is mind traps. So if we can talk about mind traps, the traps that our minds create for us, and then hopefully that will get the Tibetan and the Sanskrit going. Meditation is your mind gym. And so my joy is all these new, silly, tongue-in-cheek entries about very serious Tibetan Sanskrit definitions.
You really are such a bridge. Like, I really feel that in your energy. And I also feel a gift that you must give to young people is, it's funny, I'm saying this based on our bigger conversation today, but taking them seriously. Like when I began my work, I've been an intuitive guide for people since I was 22 years old. And when I was 22, I looked about 12. And so I really struggled to have people take me seriously. And it was painful because I think if people had, I could have grown with more ease and more directness, but instead I had to constantly fight to fit around the projections and the misunderstandings of who I was. And for you to so open-heartedly say, yeah, this is for young people. It's for people of all ages. And I want young people to feel empowered in their spiritual knowledge. Because the truth is, not for nothing, we're the closest to spiritual understanding at birth. Like, we actually get further away from it in our lives. When I was 2, I used to tell my parents about my past lives, about how I had you're going to love this, Hector. My last life, I was with a guy who left me and our tons of kids. He was in a biker gang and he went and got tattoos with his friends and like got in an accident and never came home. And I was stuck with all these kids. And so in this life, I married a really normal guy who's not a biker, although I do have a penchant for bad boys. And I decided no kids for me. I'm not getting left with those suckers again. So not this time. Not as Zoey particularly. So it's just so interesting to hear, like, you know, if when I was a young person and my mom's tried so hard to help me find somebody to help me understand myself, if I had just known where to look for you, and if she had just known where to look for you, trust me. And another interesting thing that happened while you were talking, I don't know if you read my mind or I read your mind, but we're living in the same. Our brains are together now. They're one brain. Because you were like, you know, when you hear these terms, you might think of cult. And right before that, I thought to myself, man, if you were a cult leader, I would still join. Like, if I knew it was a cult, I'd still join. Like, there's something so magnetic and persuasive about your energy that I was like, you know what? I'll drink your Kool-Aid, Hector. I don't even fucking care. Yeah. There's something so beautiful about your delivery and your offering to this world. And I love that you shared the story of this book and that it came from this very balanced approach, which I think genuinely you embody so beautifully, which is it's funny, you know, but it's also the product of 30 years of study.
Yeah.
Like 30 years of study.
I'm very proud of that. Yeah.
You should feel I don't like to say should. What I do like to say is you deserve to feel proud of yourself. That's a phrase I use a lot. You deserve to feel proud of yourself because it's actually quite an accomplishment. And I was wondering if you wouldn't mind sharing with listeners what the original name for the book was supposed to be.
Before or after I tell you a cult leader story?
Oh, you know what? You decide. I trust your inner wisdom. You let it land wherever you want.
I mean, I knew that cliquey environments because of my cultural change work in corporates. Like, you walk into Microsoft, they're all talking their language.
Talk about a fucking cult.
Yeah,
Google.
yeah. You talk about, you know, any organization has their own little acronyms and whatever. And I know that we can be perceived because we're spiritual also, you know. So we decide, and there's some bad articles about me and my teacher. So people have opinions. And I've been accused of being a cult leader. So I thought, what would I do with that is I would make merch that said cult. And I mean, it's perfect, right? So I made cult hats and cult t-shirts, like, you know, because everyone at Three Jewels is in their 20s. So we're like, yeah, screw it, you know. So, and someone walked into Three Jewels and destroyed threw the hats on the ground, made a mess, yelled at the people behind the counter twice, same person, because we are giving Buddhism a bad name by putting cult on a hat and a t-shirt. So the people that got most offended are the people in the cult. Anyway, so that's my 2 cents on that.
That's incredible.
What was the other question? I forgot the question.
My question was the original title of your book.
Okay, yeah. If you want to join that cult, this was going to be the Three Jewels big dictionary of terms, but because you can't fill out dictionaries too long a word, it would just be DIC dot of terms. Right? But
it is giving big dick energy.
Yeah, it was. That's what I wanted it to be. I mean, to me, that made sense. But I don't think it'll go on to the bestseller because it's self-published. So we're not aspiring towards that. It really is a book that you can open every day and say, what's my inspiration or what's my connection? And you will have real practices that are tried and tested for 2,500 years, real definitions. And you only need one. It's too much info to try and do all the spiritual things. And so my hope is I've got, you know, Three Jewels has 63,000 visits a year. I've got 63,000 moments where people are trying to become something. If I can give them some anchor to keep them on their path, then this is a tried and tested anchor, as silly as it looks. It looks nice now. It's like decoded.
You know, what you're saying about the cult energy is actually so interesting to me. And I wanted to circle back to it for a moment because even when I was doing, my calls to my discovery calls for my group, a couple girls were like, I'm worried I'm going to get sucked into a cult because there's a group. And what I find so interesting is that we have become so individualistic as a society that the idea of deep resonance, like chosen resonance, we believe somehow must be coerced, which I think is actually so interesting.
It's cynical,
and in reality,
right?
Yes. And in reality, like when you're speaking, the reason I'm like, yeah, I would join your cult is because I resonate. I love what you're saying. And it feels true to me. And the other thing that I think is so interesting is like, there's all these titles thrown around, right? Like, people are worried I'm a cult. People are worried you're a cult. But the truth is, like, our actual work that we do is about handing your power back to you.
Yeah. That's precisely. I would. Who was it? Was it Groucho Marx who said, "I wouldn't join. I wouldn't join a club that would have me as a member."
Yes,
I think it was something. Right. So
yes.
the other thing about this being offended or being protective of culty stuff, it assumes that the human being engaged in whatever that discovery is has zero agency, that they cannot make decisions, and that they're dumb somehow and they will be taken advantage of, and like debating where your reality comes from, checking that out, meditating on a regular basis, discovering that you have more agency than being a result of an algorithm, albeit maybe not this algorithm, but it's the work algorithm. Well, now I'm a professional and I've seen it. I've seen the cults in workplaces, right? And I'm using the term broadly. And the cult of no cult, or the cult of only science-based evidence, expression of being, and there are cults. Like there are people that like get other people to do things, and other people play, but nobody is exempt from their choices. Whether your choice is I'll give my choice up, or so.
Yes.
I don't want to be in that. I want to have thinking, intelligent. Yeah, I do want young minds, because it's only the younger minds who have enough hope in the world that they are willing to work on themselves. All the people that have been obsessed about getting the car and the career and the thing, they've already compromised into that cult. And they're harder to invite to break their identity. They'll have the midlife crises. I've seen it.
Yes.
But it takes a shock. And so I'm just replicating my trauma, which is in my 20s, I didn't understand reality. Something gave me an answer. I meditated, experienced what I was taught. It worked for me. I got agency again. I want to give that away to other people.
Yes. Agency is the greatest gift that you can ever offer someone else. And I feel like what you are speaking to and speaking about is truly so loving and so compassionate. And one of the deeper tenets of true spirituality is reminding people, like, I'm not your God, you are. Like, I'm not your God, that's not your God, like you are your God. And I mean, that's the reason that I stepped away from intuitive work in the way that I was doing it, because I realized I was letting people give me their power all the time and letting me be this channel, this conduit between them and the universe. And I was like, first of all, you have the power to talk to the universe without me. Second of all, you should be making your own choices. Like, you already know what you want. You already know what's true for you. And the tools that you provide are not about telling you what to do. It's about telling you to go back to you. And how do you go back to you? And how do you go back to you honestly? And how do you go back to you with curiosity and openness and open-heartedness and flexibility without fixed rigidity? How do you explore? How do you debate yourself out of your own identity back into your authentic truth, which is empty? Yeah. So this is incredibly, incredibly profound stuff. And I'm curious if you can tell us, because I know we're coming toward the end of our time together, which is passing so quickly. I can't even like, truly, 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 Hector, I'm about to be so up your ass. Like I'm locked in. I'm not going anywhere. So I would love to say to you, also, I never thought I would say to a spiritual teacher, I'm about to be up your ass, but.
I refrain from answering I'm gay, so it might be okay.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like in this conversation, I've done a lot of things people might not usually do to someone that I wouldn't. People don't usually look at you and they don't think, oh, you were probably so cunty in the 90s, but I sure did. So I would love, Hector, I'd love if you could tell listeners, where can we get your book and how can we experience your teaching? How can we connect with you further if we want to follow the path?
Yeah. This is how well I've not marketed myself. So the only way really you can reach me is on Instagram at WakeUpist, right? So I DM people often. There's a link there to the book, and the book is only being sold because it's self-published through 3 Jewels. I won't take any money from the book. I really want it to be a gift to everyone that's working and volunteering and studying at 3 Jewels for them to understand. So I'm carrying the book around. I'm sharing it with people. It's, in my mind, it's old stuff. I'm actually working on a really cool book that feels more authentic to my 1980s. Yeah. So finally, I've thanks to this, and all the people that helped me make this, I'm not even thinking about this book. I really want people to use it. And they've been texting me and messaging me about this entry. Oh my God, it answered this. And it's really beautiful to experience. So you'll find it at 3jewels.org. We're a nonprofit. So we try and equalize access to wellness to as many people as can't afford it, or are out of the clique, or they're too old, or they're too young, or they're too this, or they're too that. And so we try, like about 40% or 40 something percent of our classes and memberships are given by donation or on scholarship. So the money from the book will go to fund a bunch of that as well. So 3jewels.org, nonprofit, and you'll see, I think it's shop and then book. Yeah. Yeah. I don't
Okay,
know.
guys, shop and then book. I love that. Hector, how do I get my copy signed? Do I have to come in to 3 Jewels myself?
At the moment, that's the only thing that's available on the website.
Okay.
It's the signed version. So if you can just buy it, you can buy it there. I signed, I think it was 75 or 100 copies. So they're the only ones up for sale now while we're waiting for this other prints.
Oh, I'm going to go buy mine now before this episode comes out, so I'm sure I get one.
Great. Thank you for the support. And really, when you buy it, think of all the people in their 20s who are about to question reality and hopefully find an answer, not just in the book, but in going to a studio where they meet like-minded people and they have hope. That if I can die with that in my mind, then you buying a book will help that happen for them. Yeah.
Hector, I just really profoundly, deeply, sincerely want to thank you so much for being here with me today. And I say this with humor in my heart, even though I seem very serious. Honestly, there's like this feeling in me, like we're not done talking. Like I'm like, I can't believe that it's time to stop this conversation, but I know that it is. Yeah. And it feels like we've reached a natural place. And yet my inner truth is like, oh no, this is an ongoing conversation. So I will definitely you'll be hearing from me personally. I really would love to bring you back into the Higher Self Hotline community. I feel like you're one of us. You're one of us. Actually, you're joining my cult.
Yeah, I've got to tell you about my past life because I was a biker. No, I'm kidding. No.
Oh my God.
I'm kidding.
Okay, I'm actually so gullible. You really got me. That is hilarious. Well, there you have it, blessed babes. Thank you so much for tuning in for another episode. And I would love if we could take a moment to send this week's subject, our good friend Hector Marcel, some love, sweetness, and positivity as he continues to pave the way and pave the path to continue to help us see the jewels in life. And as he continues to write things that are even more authentic to his true nature, because we know that those will inevitably be gifts to us all. If you're interested in being on the podcast, you guys know what to do now. Send in your questions to the Higher Self Hotline. Go to zoegreco.com/hotline. Of course, connect with me on all socials at the Zoey Greco. And I want to conclude by reminding you that you are important, you matter, and you are perfect exactly as you are. I love you. Your spirit guides love you. Hector loves you, and the universe loves you. So until next time, keep answering the call of your higher self. Bye, friends.